Come and dream with me.
Hello, welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every week we get together to talk about movies, TV, and online content, help you answer the question, was there really a shortage of pink paint because of the Barbie movie? Yes, this is proven fact. So sorry, people who wanted pink houses. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me today, Dylan Blatt.
I don't think that's a real thing. I know there's been a lot of news stories. I thought it was a fake news story at first. The first time I saw it pop up, I've seen a lot of people report on it and whatever else now. I just don't believe that's a thing. That's not how paint works, surely.
They would have needed a lot of pink paint.
Yeah, I know they need a lot of. I know they need a lot of pink paint, but a world shortage of pink paint.
Yep.
For painting a couple houses and whatever else.
Cars.
Yeah.
Clothing.
Yeah. No,
buildings.
I call bullshit.
Streets.
I'm looking forward to this movie. Love you, Greta, but nah, call bullshit.
All right, there we go.
There you go.
Headline: Dylan Blatt calls Greta Gerwig bullshit. On today's episode, we'll be talking about what's in watch history, discussing some news, giving you this week's top 3, and giving some thumbs to trailers. Kick things off with the big release of the week, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Over on All New Marvel Cast, we've got a review, a spoiler cast up, which you can go listen to right now. I've also got a review up at explosion.com. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10 and said, Across the Spider-Verse is one of the best adaptations of comic books to date, an incredible achievement in the art form of animation, and a clear love letter to the lore and legacy of Spider-Man. Dylan, do you want to give your non-spoilery thoughts on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
Yeah. So obviously, tired to talk about this, but very beautiful film. Animation is absolutely, again, the standout point, both like the animation, like movement, but also just from a solid screenshot put on your wall point of view. Music is phenomenal. Really enjoyed the original music for it. I think the soundtrack isn't as memorable. You don't have that sunflower song moment thing there, but the original music is very good.
Or What's Up, Danger?
What's Up, Danger? Yeah, or any of that. So is what it is. But the part that let me down is I just didn't feel like the character moments in this one, the narrative itself is anywhere near as strong. I think that's just a downside of doing such a clear-cut two movie story this time, whereas the first one's just a one movie. You get such a good arc and stuff like that. Still really enjoyed it. I say in the spoiler cast, I probably would have given the movie an 8 if I was the one reviewing it. But yeah, I looking forward to the second one. Probably even more so now because there's just so many things I want to see wrapped up because of how much setup this film does.
Yeah, obviously I loved it. I think it is probably the most beautiful animated film to date, or at least the most creative. Like various art styles utilized, so many fantastic like transitions, just showcasing what animation can do that like live action filmmaking can't. So. Again, animation cinema. You should all go watch this in the theaters on the biggest screen as possible. I will say, like, I've seen it twice. It was interesting because the first time I saw it, like, a lot more of the jokes hit. And then the second time I went, there was a lot of kids there. And I don't think a lot of the jokes hit as hard. A lot of them went over their heads. So go at a late screening with a lot of adults because that'll be more fun, I think. What was your crowd like to go see Spider-Verse? I didn't ask.
Mixed group, kids, middle-aged, people by themselves like me.
But like
I know.
Busy or?
I'd say like 3/4 full when I went and saw it. People laughed out loud a lot during every Spider-Man pointing at each other scene, to which I was like, did none of us watch the trailer? Like,
the trailers, yeah.
But yeah.
Is this surprising? Yeah. No, my crowd was like, it was the busiest I'd seen in the cinema in a long time. So,
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Which is very promising. Like, everybody went out and obviously it made a ton of money on the weekend. So, yeah. Here's the other thing. Do you think Beyond the Spider-Verse is coming March next year?
Yeah. 100%.
No delays.
No delays, no.
So check out our spoiler cast, read my review over at exposure.com. We also did a spoiler cast for the season 3 of Ted Lasso, the final season ? Dylan, do you want to share your non-spoiler thoughts of Ted Lasso?
Very, very enjoyable season. Some mixed writing. They sort of started stiffening their glue a bit too much, I think, but I really enjoyed most of the directions for the characters. The how Ted's story wraps up this season, I thought was picture perfect. The finale, even with some weird things that stand out like soul farms, but otherwise it was still a tearjerker, and I'm interested to see where Ted Lasso goes from here.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the season as well. Like, it's not as good as the first season, but it's still super enjoyable. Lots of heartfelt moments. They use this season to like expand on a lot of the side characters, give them a chance to shine. Yeah, I feel like a couple of things I would have loved a little bit more of, like Nate's redemption story. I feel like was something that they could have been handled better. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. But yeah, it's been very interesting to see the reaction to the show, in the days since, and like a lot of the negative reaction, a lot of the shippers for Ted and Rebecca getting very upset, especially with the clearly baited like several times throughout the episode. It feels like, but yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Apparently, Brendan Hunt had a Q&A on Reddit after the series, and someone just outright asked him, season 4 spin-off ? And he says, "We need a rest. We need to take a break. We'll come back and we'll see where we're at. Everything's on the table, but nothing is on the table."
Fair.
So yeah, it's just so interesting that they did go with the season 3. Season 3 finale instead of series finale. Like, series finale, we knew it was ending. Everybody was super secretive about it. It's very odd. But I think this is the first Apple TV project that's like come to its conclusion. Because they have like Ted Lasso was obviously one of the launch titles, so
yeah, I was going to say
that's come to an end naturally.
Yeah, naturally. Okay, yeah.
So yeah. Other than that, it's been a reasonably quiet week. Dylan, you checked out a movie on Shudder called Brooklyn 45.
Brooklyn 45, yeah. So this is have I not talked about this? Or did I dream it?
Embargo was last week, so
I dreamt I talked about it. I swear I remember talking about it.
Must have.
Right. So Brooklyn 45, it's set during so it's set shortly after the war. You got a bunch of so obviously 45 stands for 1945. You've got a group of friends who get together and they're meeting up. They all were worked in different departments and whatever else. During the war, one of them's the colonel and whatever else. I think it's like 4 other friends. They meet up at his apartment. He's called them all there for some drinks and laughs. And yeah, remember that time we fought Nazis? That was fun. So that's what's happening here. The film then follows the structure of, although it doesn't outright say it, it's the like everything's real time, right? So they arrive at the movie's like an hour and a half or whatever, and then like the events sort of just play out in real time as they're there. They're in one location, it's an apartment. And what happens is when they get in there, the colonel starts saying, "Hey, who he's struggling because his wife recently killed herself, and he wants to do a seance to attempt to talk to her and to find out why she did what she did and all these sorts of things." To say more after that sort of, I guess, gets spoilerish because it's really just a bunch of people in a room, but what ends up happening is the film attempts to, I think for the most part, succeeds. It's going to be very hit and miss because obviously the one location thing, mostly people talking, isn't going to be exciting enough for some people. But I think the performances are very solid, and what you have is mostly people talking about what they did in the war. You got these characters who absolutely have no regrets about what they had to do, and you got other characters who are very much like, well, I was taking orders, so even if they do feel bad about it, they're sort of sweeping it under the rug of I was, you've got a character who hints at this like having to kill a bunch of kids, but it was an order, so it's totally not something that's sitting on their guilty conscience at all, and all these sorts of things. But yeah, I really enjoyed the performances. The ending, I don't think, is another thing that may leave some people unfulfilled, but I think the ending made perfect sense for what I think the movie's trying to do. So yeah, hopefully I should have up a review next day or two after recording this. But I'm thinking probably around a 7.5 at the moment.
All right. So I watched a documentary on SBS Now called The Donut King. This is released in 2020, and it's about a Cambodian man named Ted Noi, who, after the troubles in Cambodia, due to the Khmer Rouge, I want to say, off the top of my head, became an immigrant to America, and then kind of started his own donut empire that's kind of had this lasting effect on the donut industry in California, where 90% of independent donut shops are run by Cambodians. Like, to the extent where, like, Dunkin' Donuts for, like, several years, like, didn't even try to break into the California market because they kind of had this stranglehold over the market. Yeah, so it kind of delves into, obviously, his past and, like, how he came about to become quote unquote the Donut King, and kind of his rise and eventual fall, which is quite interesting to watch. So I thought it was a very nice, heartfelt, like, little documentary. Reading into the character of the guy a little bit more, there's, like, he goes on to a bit more dramatic stuff after the events of the film, so that's interesting. But yeah, I think it's a very nice documentary. There's a lot of donuts. So if you like donuts, you can watch.
I love
people
donuts.
making donuts.
Not enough people make lactose-free donuts, which is my problem.
That's an issue.
Yeah, that is an issue.
You know, can you even make donuts without lactose?
You can, because there are donut places. There's one, I can't remember what they're called. It's called something like Tom's Donuts or something very generic like that. It's in Melbourne. It's in the Virgin Airport Lounge. If anyone's going through there and they want to get some lactose-free donuts for their flight anywhere, and you're going through Melbourne Airport, book Virgin. We're not sponsored, but if you book Virgin, you can get the correct donuts and you can eat them.
Tweet at Viva La Dance with your other lactose-free donut shops, I guess. It sounds like he's desperate to know. All right. Let's move into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. And Dylan, you've been catching up on a few documentary series that I watched previously. So you watched Missing, Dead or Alive.
Yes, this is the one. I started watching it and I completely forgot you talked about it. And then when I reached the end of the first episode and started the second one, and then they wrapped up the thing in the second episode, I was like, oh, that's that show, right? Yeah. So yeah, this is I think I enjoyed the show. It's interesting. I like the focus. The main sort of crux of this episode or this show is they have that one. I guess the lead character is the girl who's come from the different department, and then towards the end of the series,
major crimes,
and then towards the end she's struggling because they have a case where they don't actually find someone who's missing alive, and that sort of plays on her and all this sort of stuff. But I think I don't feel like I didn't feel like across the 4 or 5 episodes, whatever it was, I didn't feel like across the episodes that they tried too hard to over dramatize any of the cases, or or like it felt pretty straightforward, which I appreciated. Like the first one was super interesting, and the whole time being like, yeah, this is definitely the way it's going, and then the reveal doesn't actually make it a happy story. It still makes it ultimately what's happening there with that person who goes missing is super fucked up, but it's just a little bit more nuanced than if this was a straightforward Hollywood action flick where it definitely would have been the way you thought it was going to go.
Also, it's really weird that they give a lot of camera time to the suspect.
Yeah,
during that.
It is, but I guess he was happy to talk, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But, maybe if it had gone a different way, they may have cut that in the edit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
If he murdered everybody,
yeah. But yeah, I definitely feel like there's so you've got a case that starts with someone's mother goes missing, and the son's a suspect. We got another case I thought which was quite interesting, which was the mother like sort of kidnaps her own child, even though the father has custody, and like how they deal with that and try and get that solved and stuff. But yeah, I definitely thought it was interesting. I think having the solution of each one go into the second episode and trying for something different, I think can work. And they shouldn't have committed to it for every episode. I feel like the thing is, because we're so used to, like, if you're watching an episode and you're like, I bet you it's this guy, and you flick up and see there's 5 minutes left, you're like, it's going to be him, because there's no way they can solve the rest of the thing in the 5 minutes. But when you have it bleed through to the rest of the second episode, you don't know then. So it's sort of, the first time they did it, I didn't hate it, but then when they did it sort of unnecessarily, and I felt like they could have just wrapped up the second one in that episode, I was like, no, it's sort of redundant now, but I don't know.
Yeah. Then you also watched Waco, American Apocalypse.
Yeah, so this is obviously the all about, it's like 4 episodes all on Waco, the mass shootout and whatever else. You got the cult sort of all holed up in their compound, and you got the FBI coming in, and you got the other team, and they're all button heads, and lots of miscommunication that just leads to what happens here. That's a absolute disaster of history, sort of, as far as talking someone down from shootout and whatever else. But super interesting nonetheless. I like that the documentaries just has these interviews with people who were part of that cult, and they just are still true believers. Like, it's just crazy to listen to them talk so adamantly, like what they were a part of was never going to do anything wrong or do it, so I thought that was quite interesting. And I didn't feel like this 4 episodes ever had a point of view. It was just sort of it was very good at just sort of having a neutral lens of the interviews and stuff like that, and just laying it all out as it happened. Obviously when it starts and you have that mass shootout at the start between the cops and everyone, it's like, holy fucking shit. And then the way it ends, and I mean, that's the thing, like you could theorize what happened there at the end, like what causes this fire and all that sort of stuff. But I thought that was quite interesting. So yeah, I thought that was good as well. Good 4 episodes.
Cool. And then you also watched American Manhunt, the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yeah, this one, another short one. I think it was like 3-4 episodes as well.
Yep.
Very interesting once again, just to see how the case of tracking down the Boston Marathon bombers went. The sort of in a post 9/11, how like they're talking about having people talk about the kids, like people that one kid they're interviewing who went to school with one of the bombers and stuff, and him just being like, please don't be Muslim, please don't be Muslim, and then of course it's like, fuck. So like, I think having that angle was a good addition to have to this series. There was some stuff in here I didn't know, like the shootout in the middle of the street between those cops who just think they're carjackers. That's absolutely insane. The fact that he manages to escape there again for a second and hide literally 2 meters away and takes them forever to find him is quite funny. I remember knowing where they found him, but like the fact he was that far away after, I was like, holy fucking shit. Yes, this was definitely an interesting series on the bombing, and from a lot of people's different points of view. You've got cops, you've got survivors, you've got people went to school, the people who were I don't know the official name, but like some person from the church, the mosque, sorry, all these different angles. So yeah, I thought it was interesting.
And then you also watched Victim Suspect.
Oh, this was good, right? So Victim Suspect. Yeah, I thought this was a very interesting. So this is a feature-length documentary. That sort of. So it's, I can't remember the newspaper, but it's the lead person behind this one, doing the doco is this reporter based at some American newspaper who starts like looking into all these news stories and cases that are happening where, and I'm sure a lot of them, if you watch this, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that pop up on Twitter or whatever, is these women who make quote unquote false reports about being, raped and sexually assaulted and whatever else, and then retract that and say, no, they were just lying and whatever else. And this reporter starts going like, why are there so many of these like stories? Like what's the go here? And then what ends up happening is she looks into them and finds out basically, I mean, this documentary just, it reminded me a lot of, there's another Netflix documentary about, I can't remember what it was called, about just the psychology of, like cops drilling people for like 8 hours in interviews and getting them to, like falsely agree to a crime they didn't commit and all that sort of stuff. That like, I can't remember the name. There's a really interesting documentary on that too. This falls into the same category because that's what happens here. You have these women say, hey, I was sexually assaulted, blah, 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 blah. That's horrible. Please help me. And you would think it would be a straight up thing of the cop should be like, oh my God, are you okay? Yes. Let me investigate that for you. But what ends up happening is they grill these victims for like 8-10 like hours and end up basically like psychologically breaking them down to they're like, no, I lied, I made it up. Because and they don't really cover it in this, but that other documentary I've watched where they talk about like why someone would do that is because they're like, they just want to say anything to get out of that fucking interview room. Like, please just let me go. Like, what I've come to you for help, and now I'm having to. I'm being treated like I'm the criminal. I just want to leave. Like, I thought you would help me, but you're not. So, I thought it was really, really interesting. It's interesting, but it's also really, really fucked up because the other thing this documentary points out that I was like, that's a good point, and that's horrible. Is that so? If you're a victim of a sexual assault, your name won't be released, right? So if any newspaper reports on said crime, will just call you the victim and whatever else. They won't release your name and all this sort of stuff. But the second that any of these people are grilled and that they change their claim, they're then charged with falsely reporting a crime, and then all the newspapers and whatever else they fully name the woman. They're then abused online, like this is the Me Too movement ruining it, etc., all this sort of stuff. But yeah, the documentary covers all that, and then it covers some of the women trying to get together to sort of get their cases turned back around in court, and like the process for that, and like trying to find evidence to prove that they were like sort of grilled and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I would definitely suggest watching this one. I thought it was really interesting.
All right. And that's everything in our Watches Tree. Let's move on to some film news. And Dylan, there's a massive fight brewing in Hollywood. Tom Cruise is reportedly trying to get the release dates for Barbie or Oppenheimer moved. In a well-known fact within the film community that two widely anticipated movies are coming out on the same day. Christopher Nolan's historical thriller Oppenheimer and Greta Gerwig's fantasy comedy Barbie are both releasing on Friday the 21st of July. However, actor Tom Cruise reportedly has an issue with this. Tom Cruise stars in the upcoming action spy film Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, set to release on Wednesday, July 12th. This release date is a little over a week before Barbie and Oppenheimer comes out. According to Puck News, Cruise has been complaining to Paramount executives about how Nolan's Oppenheimer will be taking all IMAX screens in North America and other territories for 3 weeks following a release. This means fans hoping to watch the new Mission Impossible movie only have 9 days to see it in IMAX before every screen is in this famous premium format is taken by Nolan's historical epic. With the 7th Mission Impossible movie featuring a nearly $300 million budget and getting pushed back multiple times due to COVID, it is no wonder Tom Cruise wants an optimal release window for his film. Dylan, what are your thoughts on Tom Cruise fighting against Oppenheimer?
Well, we all should have thought against the nuclear bomb. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We should have been on board with it.
We should have been on board from the start. So, look, this is, I get it to a degree. Now, he's being a bit of a prick about it, but I'm trying to meet in the middle ground here and say, look, I get it. You film this, you do all these massive stunts. You go to effort to make this thing. And Tom Cruise has proven time and time again he's a big supporter of cinema going, bigger screen, the loudest theaters, the big IMAX movie moments for his films. Right? Obviously, Top Gun. He was willing to keep that in the vault for 10 years if it took until he put it in theaters. I feel. So having him get like this, I get, but the part that annoys me is I'm like, how the fuck do all these people, like, between the studios, like, why do we have Barbie, Mission Impossible, and Oppenheimer all so closely together? Like, it's wild. Like, what studio heads? Which one wouldn't falter? Which one wouldn't, like, get the fuck out of the way? Just,
to be fair, none of them are exactly the same or cater to the exact same audience.
I guess so. But
so
I mean,
like
Oppenheimer and Mission Impossible, yes, they're both IMAX films.
Well, I think that's the one that's interesting. It's like Oppenheimer has like blocked out those 3 weeks, exclusively across the entire country, which seems crazy.
Well, they obviously made a deal,
and obviously Christopher Nolan's been doing IMAX stuff for
and I can't, again,
years.
This is the thing, I can't even hold it against Nolan. Like, Nolan loves big cinema experiences just as much as Tom Cruise, although he goes for different sorts of things in his movie. Obviously he's a big purporter of that as well. And my man apparently fucking recreated the atom bomb for his film and shot it on IMAX. So, like,
and we need to see it.
So, they're talking about the film, the 70 millimeter film they've got, and it rolls out like 21 miles or whatever the fuck it is for the IMAX version of Oppenheimer, and all these stories that are happening at the moment. That's how long the film is. Like, that's the shit that caught fucking on fire in Inglourious Basterds. So yeah, I understand why he wants to have these cinemas locked up, and I understand why Tom Cruise wants to have the cinemas locked up. But the fact is, you both can't. So, that's the problem. I it's a funny news story because I'm like, I get it. I totally get it.
But also, this has been a thing for like several, like, almost years. Yeah. Like,
but I was like,
we knew this was coming.
We knew these films were coming. Someone's fucked up here somewhere. Like, why is this only at the last second? Tom Cruise is like, wait, hold on. You've locked. No, where Oppenheimer? Has anyone heard this film, Oppenheimer? When the fuck was that announced? Like, that's the part that I'm like, you had time to try and work this out, or at least the studio execs did over there. That should, like, less of a Paramount. So, I mean, I get it. Like, usually when these big films come out, it's not abnormal. They always end up locking out the IMAX theaters for at least a couple weeks. That's pretty normal for any of these big releases. Mm-hmm. But they don't usually cross over like this. It's the problem. So just delay the movie. All right, delay it by a couple weeks. Done. Solved. I fixed it. You can pay me. How much do people get paid to make those decisions? Right?
No, just release it this week. Release it this week.
Fix it.
Yeah, fixed it.
Solved it.
You're welcome, Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see how that plays out. Big movement in the ongoing writer strike caused by the Directors Guild. The Directors Guild of America announced a tentative deal with the studios on Saturday night, providing pay hikes and improved residual for international streaming. But a summary provided by the DGA makes no mention of pegging the streaming residuals to viewership. That indicates that residuals will continue to be the same on streaming platforms, whether a show is a hit or a flop. The DGA residual term is especially significant provision because it tends to be applied to the other guilds in patent bargaining. According to the DGA summary, the deal will provide a 76% increase in foreign residuals for the largest platforms. Both the Writers Guild and the SAG-AFTRA have been interested in getting a residual based on views, but the streamers have adamantly refused to turn over the data that were required to make that work. The WGA, the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA have both indicated they will not be limited by the terms reached by the DGA. SAG-AFTRA begins its bargaining on Wednesday, and its contract is due to expire on June 30th. Another significant term in the DGA deal is the increase in minimums. DGA won a 5% increase in the first year, followed by increases of 4% and 3.5%. Those numbers represent the exact midpoint between the positions taken by the Writers Guild and the studios when talks broke down on May 1st. DJ also obtained language on artificial intelligence, making clear that AI is not a person and that a generative AI cannot replace the duties performed by its members. The summary makes no mention of a prohibition on AI training, which has been a proposal offered by the other two guilds. Interesting. So, members of the Writers Guild didn't take this news very well. Lots of different quotes from different writers. WGA takes a stand, DGA rips awards, and other things of the ilk. We went on strike because the studios were devaluing us. From what I read this morning, the DGA agreement only touches on residuals for us. Otherwise, I think the impact won't be much. There was some more cutting out. Here we go. DGA sent us to war with "we're right behind you," and then made a deal behind our backs. We should add to our list of demands and include writers must go to set to remind them of our hard-won battle scars that they claim heel spurs or whatever instead of joining us on the lines. Yeah, so Dylan, what do you think of this latest development in the ongoing guild bargaining agreements?
I don't know. I'm honestly, I saw someone tweet the other day and say like surprised that there's still this stuff's still going on, but it's just a thing of I was like, none of you either remember or have bothered to do any Google searches about what happened last time shit like this went down. So I'm not surprised that it's like they're getting shitty offers and having to sort of swat them down in an attempt to get what they want. I'd like to say it should be that easy. I mean, ultimately, it should be that easy. Like, Apple, big Apple event today, right? Tech-wise and stuff like that. Saw Gary Witter just before tweet out something about them doing a strike at a bunch of the Apple stores because Apple's not on board to pay their writers what they're asking for as far as their shows. I think, look, and I shouldn't do this, but I think he said it was something like they made $400 billion or did like a $400 billion deal, and what they're asking for is like a total of $17 million. That's across like obviously everyone will be getting paid. It's like such a drop in the bucket of what people are asking for, and that's the same across every company. Like the asking for is so small, and especially when you see how much big CEOs get paid as bonuses and like that sort of stuff, you're like, okay, so you literally take like if one CEO just takes like a 5% less bonus and which really doesn't affect them at all ultimately, then everyone gets what they want. And that sounds like super redundant, and it sounds too simple that it can't be that easy, but it kind of is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I guess good for the DGA if that's what they wanted, but like it seems like a few of the writer/directing members weren't too happy about how this exactly played out. And I guess it is definitely going to come down to SAG-AFTRA as well and what they're going to want, and whether they kind of help the writers kind of get what they want as well. Because we thought it was all going to be like a 3-pronged attack against the studios, and they're going to have to cave and like very much give back to a lot of the guilds, but it doesn't seem like the case.
No.
Also crazy this week that like Disney is continuing to have a bunch of layoffs across a lot of the different segments. Of course, the one that's got a lot of attention this week is over at Pixar. Angus McFarlane, who directed Lightyear, has been let go, as well as one of the producers there who saved Toy Story 2.
Yeah. We know the funniest,
or a version of Toy Story 2.
The funniest thing about that story coming out to me is these days, if you like, the funniest thing to me is the fact that someone had a copy of that film at home. Like these days, I'd be like, how the fuck do you have a copy of our film at home? That's like, I'm sending you to prison for like stealing. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be like
well, now everything's on the cloud, so there's like a little chance of it getting
that happens,
completely deleted. But yeah, kind of crazy. Exciting news for Fast and Furious fans. Dwayne Johnson is returning to the Fast and Furious universe with a new standalone film reprising his franchise role as Luke Hobbs. Universal Pictures announced the project on Thursday. Longtime Fast and Furious collaborator Chris Morgan wrote the untitled film script. Plot details were not available, though individuals familiar with the deal said the new film will bridge between the events of the just-released Fast X and the upcoming Fast X Part 2, which is expected in 2025. Dylan, what are your thoughts on Dwayne Johnson, Hobbs back
I think
in the Fast and Furious?
I think we made a joke
universe.
in Spoilercast that, it was like, if you give me a film, I'll come back sort of thing. And I think that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah.
Because in his video, he's like, me and Vin have had all these problems, but he's like a brother to me, and we basically figured it out. But also, I'm getting my film, so but whatever. I mean, it's. I'm excited to have Hobbs back, especially coming into the finale of the franchise. Obviously, Hobbs is one of the biggest, most prominent characters in the Fast and Furious, so keen to have The Rock back in that role. His little cameo part that at the end of Fast X was super exciting. Big reveal moment. And I didn't love Hobbs and Shaw. Like, it was fine. I think having him do a solo movie, less comedic focused and more like I would love if it was more of just a gritty cop thing. Because the thing is, like, when he whips off his thing, like his whatever balaclava thing in the thing, and the delivery of like, "You son of a bitch," like that seems more like that's like the Fast and Furious, like Fast and Furious 4, Fast and Furious 5 Hobbs, right? The Hobbs we get in Hobbs and Shaw and all that sort of stuff, that's more the Rock current comedic thing. Like, and
that's The Rock playing himself.
That's The Rock playing himself. So the way he delivers that line, though, it makes me that's more like, okay, back to classic Hobbs sort of thing. Which if he's doing that in the movie, then yeah, fuck yeah.
How closely do we think he'll be tied to Dante, this potential standalone film?
I'm gonna say, well, I don't know. The thing is, because we don't know that reveal scene, like when that takes place and stuff. You could say that actually takes place during the events of Fast X, and like there's.
Well, that's what usually happens, right?
Yeah. Well, it could. Yeah, we don't know. If they do that and they have his movie taking place at the same time as Fast X, and then it ends just in time for where Fast X ends, because it can't go past Fast X, because obviously there's such a major cliffhanger with so many characters in that film. But yeah, I think it could definitely happen in tandem.
Do you think this is the film that Vince was talking about being part of the trilogy of the end?
That would make sense, because Vin, he's got some number count problems, that boy, and like he may not realize that a spin-off is not technically part of a trilogy, but that's fine. I'll let him have it.
Or are we getting Fast X Part 3? I don't know.
No, I think after saying this as a bridging film, I'm like, okay, that probably makes more sense. 3 films.
All right. Last story for this week is an interesting one. Studio Ghibli, the iconic Japanese animation studio, will maintain a cloud of secrecy for as long as possible around How Do You Live, the final film from Maestro Miyazaki. Hayao Miyazaki. Why did they write it that way? The new movie is scheduled to arrive in theaters in Japan on July 14th. But Studio Ghibli and its partners will do away with the pre-release advertising and advanced information. To date, it has released only a single enigmatic poster of a bird. In a long interview with Bunji Shunju magazine, now available on YouTube, Studio Ghibli president and producer Suzuki Toshio explained the unusual strategy as a ploy to whet the appetites of fans. They have been denied a new film by Miyazaki since 2013's The Wind Rises. And quote, they'll want to see for themselves what the film is about, and to do that, they'll have to go to the theater. Dylan, what are your thoughts on not knowing anything before Miyazaki's next film gets released?
Really looking forward to seeing all the shitty screenshots that people take on their phones and post on Twitter.
It's in Japan. No, it's being released in Japan first, so I mean, they're not going to do it.
You'd hope not. Yeah, I got nothing against it. Sure, why not? I mean, I don't need to know anything. It's like, this is definitely going to be his last film. So,
Is it though?
Yeah, because my man's like 80 years old and he took fucking 15 years to make this. So math says last film.
But, you know, he's a stubborn old man.
He's stubborn, but, you know, you can only be so stubborn in the face of death. So I'm keen. I don't need to know anything. You know, the marketing is new Hayao Miyazaki film. Do you want to watch it? I say yes. Do I care what it's about? No.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Obviously, it'll probably play more in Japan. By the time it comes here, there'll be trailers, there'll be posters. We'll know what it's about. So, but yeah, I mean, a good strategy. Obviously, you know, Miyazaki, again, a film he's been working on forever.
Well, I'll say quick asterisk. It's based on a book. Now, whenever he bases stuff on a book, he takes it and completely reworks it. However, thematically, they're usually like somewhat the same on a basic level.
Somewhat similar. Yes.
So if you want to have an idea of what this is, you can get the book. I've got the book here somewhere. I brought it. I haven't started it.
Okay. Well,
I got time.
All right. That's all the news that we got this week. Let's give some thumbs to trailers. Of course, we'll find all the trailers we're about to talk about this week in the show notes. First one, Black Mirror Season 6, created by Charlie Booker, starring Aaron Paul, Anja Vasan, Annie Murphy, Auden Thornton, Ben Barnes, Clara Rugged, Daniel Portman, Danny Ramirez, David Shields, Himish Patel, John Hannah, Josh Harnett, Kate Mara, Michael Cera, Monica Dolan, Mahala Harold, Payapa Isidu, Rob Delaney, Rory Culkin, Salma Hayek Pinalt, Samuel Belkin, and Zazie Beetz. In an obstructive dystopian future, several individuals grapple with the manipulative effects of cutting-edge technology in their personal lives and behaviors. Dylan, are you excited for Black Mirror Season 6?
Of course. It's been 20, 21, 22, 4 years since the last quote-unquote season, which had 3 or 4 episodes in it. So very keen to get some more. The stories that we see in the trailer for this all look and stand out as obviously very different, as is the case with Black Mirror always. I love the I guess the headline one, the first episode, because usually the last couple of seasons where they've been doing like these feature length episodes that are basically just movies. The first episode is usually the key one from the season, and having that one be the woman who's like basically has a Netflix who's created about herself, even though she's just an average person, and like played by Salma Hayek. That's very weird and interesting. But yeah, the rest of it looks very good as well, and I'm keen to see what they've cooked up in the last 4 years, especially in I guess a post COVID world, a post. Well, I don't know how much AI. Well, the thing is, Black Mirror was talking about AI in season 1, like years and years and years ago. So I don't know how much that affects anything with the current AI situation in the world. But yeah, either way, very keen to check out more Black Mirror.
No, I haven't watched any Black Mirror. I know a promise to fucks the pig, but other than that,
I like how that's turned you off. Like you heard one episode and you went, "No, I'm out." For the rest of the show, even though every single story is completely different, I heard about one episode and I'm done.
You know, pig fucking is what I hear. So
there's one episode with a pig fuck.
No, this is obviously a really good trailer. It gives you a good idea of each of the different stories. What do you think of they tease of Red Mirror? And obviously that last film, Demon 79. Something more in the supernatural kind of world rather than technology kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I got like the show has slowly got more and more out there, I guess, where the first couple seasons when it was just a BBC show were very sort of somewhat grounded but weird at the same time. And then as they've progressed, we've got sort of more and more out there. Obviously the key one that was Emmy nominated a couple of years ago, that was basically an episode of Star Trek. That one, and now they're doing stuff where that last one where it looks like it's dealing with the fucking devil or whatever's going on. Like, I don't know. There's going to be more to it, is the thing. So as much as I'm like, I don't really get it, or like, don't know if that fits in Black Mirror, I'm fully open to seeing how it fits in to the show's usual thematic idea, which is around technology and people.
All right. Black Mirror. It's about to return to Netflix on the 15th of June. So really close. Next trailer. The Adults.
Double thumbs up, by the way.
Oh, yeah. 2 thumbs up. Yeah. That's the part of it. Next trailer. The Adults. Directed by Dustin Guy Deffer. Starring Michael Cera, Hannah Gross, Sophia Lillis, and Wavy Jones. Eric wanted to have a short trip back home, but as time passes, it turns into a nostalgic stay as Eric catches up with his 2 sisters. His desire to prove himself to be the best poker player in town is also holding up his return. His sour relationship with his sister Rachel and their little sister Maggie's attempts to revive the camaraderie they once shared make Eric and Rachel face the reality of a present divide between them. Dylan, what do you think of this trailer for The Adults?
Oh, absolutely double thumbs up. This is like mid 2000s indie hit that I would absolutely have eaten up in high school. So I'm all about this. It looks just very funny, very straight for but also it's Michael Cera doing I don't think he's ever done I guess you could say Juno, I guess fits somewhere into this sort of indie comedy, serious topic but funny at the same time category. But he definitely seems to be playing more of the straight faced in this, where the other people are doing the comedy. Although his accent at the end of this trailer is quite funny. So I'm gonna double thumbs up for sure.
Yeah, this is 2 thumbs up from me. It looks like a interesting little indie film. Michael Cera, he's been kind of quiet the last few years, so seeing him in something like this is really cool. Sophia Lillis is really good. What I've seen of her so far. Just a little cute family drama with vacuums and poker. The Adults is scheduled to release in the US on the 18th of August. No Australian release date. Next trailer, I'm a Virgo, created by Boots Riley, starring Jerome, Mike Epps, Carmen Gojo, Brett Gray, Kara Young, and Walton Goggins. Cootie is a 13-foot tall, 19-year-old black man raised by his aunt and uncle in Oakland, California. He is shielded from the outside world until being accidentally discovered by a group of teenage political activists. Dylan, what are your thoughts on I'm a Virgo?
Double thumbs up. This is obviously a if you've watched what's that fucking film called? What the fuck is that movie called? Mental blank on the name of it. The Boots Riley one.
Sorry to bother you.
2 years ago. Sorry to bother you. Right. So if you watch Sorry to Bother You, absolutely fantastic. Really, if you watch the trailer, it looks too weird to have something have an interesting drama in it. But when you watch the movie, its concept never got in the way of what it was trying to say about the working class black man, I guess. And I feel like this, as weird as this is, and it basically looks like Clifford, but teenage black person, is the switch there. I have full faith, given the history with his last film, that this, as weird and outlandish as this looks, is I guess it's still gonna have interesting character drama and stuff that just makes it not just weird for the sake of being weird. Although I'm sure it'll be funny at times too.
Yep. Yeah, 2 thumbs up from me. This has been on my radar for a while. It premiered at South by Southwest. And Boots Riley, Sorry to Bother You was a crazy film. This is equally crazy. It was surprising that it was more than just one tall guy. It seems like the entire world is kind of full of meta-humans or whatever, so that's an interesting wrinkle, I guess, to it as well. Walton Goggins playing this Homelander-esque character, I guess, this faux superhero, is an interesting addition. But looks really fantastic. The size, however they did the sizing, looks really good. I'm looking forward to this one. So this is coming to Prime Video on the 23rd of June. Next trailer is for Biosphere, directed by Mel Eslin, starring Sterling K. Brown and Mark Duplass. In the not-too-distant future, the last two men on Earth must adapt and evolve to save humanity. Dylan, what do you think of the trailer for Biosphere?
Looks very weird. Double thumbs up. Two absolutely fantastic actors having to play off one another. It was written by Mark Duplass as well as Mel Eslin, the director. So I basically am all aboard it because they've worked together before on a bunch of stuff, and I'm just going to give this full faith. Like, I think this is the first thing. Let me just double check before I'm a lie. I think this is the first major thing she's directed.
Yeah.
Yes. So, like, done a couple episodes of Room 104, which is a Duplass production as well. But so she's been a producer on a bunch of the other stuff and whatever. So, but as someone who really enjoys either or Duplass Brothers weird movies, I'm all aboard this. I don't really need to know anything else.
Fair enough. I'll give this one up, one down. I think, it's a mood setter, but it's not exactly drawing me in to watch the movie. I'm excited because of the people involved, but this trailer is not really wowing, But
no. I feel like my thing is I just see Mark Duplass and I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah, Mark Duplass shows up on screen. 2 thumbs up.
I'm pretty much in. I mean, if he's a writer, a director, like that I'm pretty much all in. If he's just an actor, I'm like, okay, like you're in the morning show, cool story. But if he's involved in the creative vision of it, I'm all aboard.
All right. So Biosphere is releasing in Australian cinemas on the 7th of September. Last trailer for this week is the new trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem, directed by Jeff Rowe, starring Micah Abbey, Shaman Brown Jr., Hannibal Buress, Rose Byrne, Nicholas Cantu, John Cena, Jackie Chan, Ice Cube, Necessa, Demetrio, Aya Edebiri, Giancarlo Esposito, Post Malone, Brady Noon, Seth Rogen, Paul Rudd, and Maya Rudolph. After years of being sheltered from the surface world in the sewers of New York City, 4 Turtle brothers set out on a quest to be accepted as normal teenagers through acts of heroism. With the aid of their human friend April O'Neil, the brothers' biggest challenge puts them in the crosshairs of a mysterious crime syndicate and an army of mutants. Dylan, what do you think of this new trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem?
Yeah, 100% thumbs up. Did we talk about the last one?
We talked about the last one, yes.
Yeah, okay. Like, it still looks as good, even better trailer than the last one. I keep seeing people tweet about it and be like, this looks like Spider-Man. I mean, here's the easiest way. It looks like the Mitchells versus the Machines because that's the directors, right? There's which I know that when that came out, people were like, this looks like Spider-Man, but I'm like, let's just get past that point and go to it looks like Mitchells versus Machines. Voice cast, really a plethora of fantastic choices amongst there, but the movie just looks very, very fun, and the animation style obviously stellar. Very keen, very, very, very keen for this one.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up from me. The thing I took away from this is, man, some of those characters look ugly, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing.
Yeah, it's not picture perfect like his design, like
even Splinter.
Yeah. I need to do a freeze frame, but Splinter looks very odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the kind of direction they're going with. Like, these kids just want to be normal teenagers, but of course they can't because they're mutant turtles. Yeah, just fantastic. I ducked out of my cinema to quickly go to the bathroom before seeing Spider-Verse. Came back in. They were playing this trailer, and I was very upset. Didn't get to see it on the big screen, but hopefully again soon. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem is due in cinemas on 7th of September. Alright, let's move into this week's top 3.
Definitely in the top 3.
This week's top 3, in honor of Spider-Verse, it's top 3 franchises that should get an animated film. Dylan, what's number 3?
This one was sort of hard to narrow down because there's just so many film franchises that you could say would make for an interesting animated film. But all right, I'm going to go with number 3, James Bond.
Ooh.
So I remember there was a James Bond comic book a couple years ago that I quite enjoyed. And then had very stylized. Had a completely different Bond. It wasn't based on any of the. It was original Bond, not based on any of the movie ones and stuff. So something like that, but animated. With a very stylistic choice, original James Bond and everything like that. I think would be very cool.
Awesome. My number 3, Terminator. I feel like animation would be the way to go. Obviously, you've tried several times to continue that series in live action, and it hasn't quite worked. I think animation, you can go like a bigger, crazier story and not have to worry about the believability of real people in the real world. You can give us a more in-depth look at the actual future, like where the Terminators are and like that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you could pull off some crazy cool stuff with the Terminators in animation that you wouldn't be able to pull off in live action, like their skin getting completely burnt off and it's just the actual T800 skeleton body underneath and shit like that. Or like the crazy morphing shit. Like they did fantastic stuff in too, but you know, I'm sure you could take it to another level in animation, that kind of stuff. So yeah, Terminator. I think that would be cool. Dylan, what's your number 2?
Number 2, I've gone with Mad Max. So I think I would say give me a film set between Mad Max 3 and Mad Max Fury Road, or something along those lines. Very anime inspired car sequences, I guess, would be my pitch. Hyper stylized sequences across the locales, and then the type of characters that you often get in the Mad Max franchise are obviously very out there, and I think that would fit very well for to be able to do in animation.
All right. My number 2, Indiana Jones. You know, obviously you're coming to the end of Harrison Ford's run. You're not going to be able to do another movie with Harrison Ford, so just do an animated one. Like tell earlier stories, young Indiana Jones stories in animation. Do something in the vein of, but not exactly like Tintin, which was a fantastic animated movie, but like smaller stories about Indy going around collecting archaeological shit. You know, that'd be cool.
What if it's Indy collecting archaeological shit?
Yeah, you know. Think of all the booby traps you could have in animation.
Fair.
Dylan, what's your number 1?
Number 1, I've gone with Hellraiser. So the Clive Barker series, characters, Pinhead, and you know all the Necrobites. You could do a very fucked up Hellraiser movie. I would love to see it done in. I'm trying to remember what the like a rotoscoping style would be my go for this one. So sort of somewhere between having it look semi-realistic still, but being able to do an animation and bring some ultra sort of, I guess, violence to it without having to potentially step on it's live action. So then it's like a bit too much for some people or whatever. Some people, you know, like, you know, I'm sure you could agree, like if it's animated violence, it's a little bit easier to take for some people who don't like violence in like live action. So doing something like that would be really cool and an interesting direction to take the Hellraiser franchise, which even though they tried to reboot last year and they did a decent one with, I don't know like how much it actually took off. So Hellraiser.
My number 1, Superman. I think animation is probably the best format for a Superman story. You can do all the crazy, show off all his powers in the best possible way, closer to the comics and like what you can in live action. You can get the body type of Superman in a way that you can't with a live action actor. You can the switch between Superman and Clark Kent and all that kind of stuff. I would love to see a big budget Superman animated film. That would be very cool. James Gunn, let me know. All right, let us know what franchises should get an animated film. Also, I was going to check out John Wick. I think that would be cool to see like a prequel animated film.
Yeah.
Let us know by going to explosion.com/Twitter or jump to Discord at explosion.com/Discord. Help us out here at What Do You Want to Watch by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. Leave us 5 stars anywhere, leave 5 stars, or just tell people about the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, thought it was worth $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.